Hey, did you know Wallingford Media Group develops, designs, and manages websites? Well, we do. Contact us soon for your brand new website, or let us give you a fresh new makeover.
WBON-TV had a chance to speak with Charlotte, North Carolina's Vince Coakley. Coakley has his own radio show in Charlotte and Greenville. Coakley's show won the South Carolina Broadcasters Association 2016 Radio Show of the Year. Coakley spent many years in Kentucky and Richmond and worked in local radio as well as in television in Lexington and Louisville. Coakley also worked as a reporter and anchor in the Charlotte TV market for years. Coakley was invited back to his roots in Richmond and at EKU, his alma mater, to be a guest speaker for Black History Month, speaking about making your media career in the digital age.
Our family, we moved here in 1982, I believe it was, 1982. And interestingly enough, I had just started a few months before my first radio job at a station, tiny station, dawn to dusk radio station in Newark, Delaware. And I remember, as a part of me didn't really want to go because it's like, it's got a new job and everything. But I came down here, and that was the other thing, going to a brand new school, Madison Central. Going to a brand new school your senior year in high school. I mean, how many people want to do that? But it worked out well. So came down here, started working at a radio station, and all that worked pretty well. Stayed there for several years, and went through college with some interruptions in there, and ultimately ended up doing an internship over in Louisville. Worked at the public radio station here in Richmond. Then ultimately got first TV job at Channel 18 in Lexington. Worked there a year, worked at Channel 27 for a year, then got hired away to Charlotte as a reporter. Worked from reporter up to weekend anchor, up to weekday anchor, up to main anchor. And somewhat I'll be talking with students about is my journey and career, and I've transitioned from television into radio. My first fill-in radio opportunity was on the Herman Cain Show. A lot of people didn't know that. He was off for a few days, and I filled in down in Atlanta. And then I started working at WBT in Charlotte, my first talk radio gig. Had a one-year contract, and it was not renewed. So somewhat I talk with people about is just the need to be flexible, be willing and ready and able to reinvent yourself at any time. And one of the cool things about that for me is, so much of this is about relationships in this business. It's not knowing the right people per se, but it's connecting. It's even that friend. And in this case, it was a friend of mine, a former congressman, who happened to call me and say, hey, there's this radio station in Greenville, South Carolina. They've got a need on an ongoing basis for somebody to fill in. So he said, I can't do all of them. I told him, there's this guy right up the road in Charlotte. You ought to talk to him. So they talked to me. I started filling in. By the fall of 2014, they offered a full-time job to me. And they said, hey, we'll let you do the show from home. So every day I'm doing this radio show from home. Technology is wonderful. And then down the road, the station where I used to work last year was bought by the company I was currently working for. So I pitched this idea. I said, hey, why don't we simulcast my show on both stations? Nothing happened with that for a full year. A few months ago, that station called, and we've been simulcasting now for a couple of months. So it's on in Greenville, South Carolina, and in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's a pretty interesting adventure. That's the summation of my journey over the years. We talk about news, current events, politics. One of the things that I set out to do from the very beginning, and I think talk radio has, in some cases, for good reasons, a bad reputation for being just stirring up a lot of strife and arguing, and I try to transcend that in some way because my goal, my hope is to empower people and encourage people. One thing people immediately notice, I am not going to be hesitant to talk about Christianity. to talk about having a relationship with God, the importance of how all that figures in. And as a Christian, the importance of being salt and light. Because I'll tell you, I'm very concerned as Christians, rather than being redemptive influence, we too often allow ourselves to be co-opted. If I may borrow an expression from Scripture, I believe that in many cases we have whored ourselves to the political system. And they will use us, they will abuse us, and then they'll spit us out when they don't need us anymore. So, what I like to do is, yes, we talk about the news of the day, we talk about politics. I try to, my effort anyway, is to elevate the conversation. What are our real values? What are our principles? What are we standing on today that we're going to be standing on a year from now, 5 years from now, irrespective of personalities? Too much of what's going on is focused on personalities and parties, and I try to transcend that. So I hope that's helpful. It's pretty amazing. I'm struck by all of the incredible changes that have taken place on the EKU campus. And in many ways, certain areas are not recognizable at all. And, I'm excited about that. It's kind of cool, and yet at the same time, there's enough that's familiar that's just like, it's kind of surreal to be there. It's like, wow, this is pretty interesting. And you have memories of being in certain places or certain events that took place. So it's cool. It's a really, there's no question the school is trying to keep up with the times and make sure that they're on the competitive edge and preparing students for their careers, which is great. There was a Dairy Queen up there, and I would go up there and I'd buy a Blizzard, or I'd go to the convenience store up there. I don't think that's there anymore. But what I would do is I'd find a long song. There were several of them. One of the ones that stands out to me is a song called Double S. I can't remember the guy's name who did that song. The song is over 6 minutes long. And I remember I thought, I'm cool. I started the song, 6 minutes long. I go up to the store, get what I need. I come back, and there's a little bit of a groove in that particular record. That's back when we were playing records, and it was stuck. And it was going around and around. I love that story. That's one of my favorites. Well, the past few days, the two stories stand out to me. And I'll tell the most difficult one first. Yeah, we have talked about the school shooting. It's one of those things, and I'm very, very much just like a broken record because we've had the discussion over and over again. Here's where I think, and I'll just say God has been dealing with me in this respect. One of the things that He's been teaching me is the importance of relationally identifying with people, as opposed to yelling at people and just trying to make your argument. I've seen some things. I haven't been on the air. We haven't discussed this in about 2 or 3 days, but there are some recent things that have happened and some accusations flying around about some things that may have been set up on CNN. That's not a conversation, to be honest with you, I even want to have. And here's why. We need to have empathy for people as human beings. Especially if somebody's a victim and they've been in that school. I've got to tell you, I've got a real problem, especially with Christians, being insensitive to what people have experienced. If you cannot identify with that person's pain, please be quiet. Because I think we're really doing the genuine conservative cause harm, by stupidly throwing around this phrase, fake news, all the time. Can we just put the political stuff aside for a moment and say, you know what? Man, I'm really sorry for what you've experienced down there. Yes, this is my position. I don't believe in gun control, and I don't believe any amount of gun control is going to fix this problem. And yes, I absolutely believe that. There's a way to engage that conversation without being nasty, without being just downright inhuman. And that's where, if there's anything different about my show, I hope that current comes across, that I genuinely love people, even people I disagree with. The other thing, and I say this as a comparison between TV and radio, yesterday I was on the way to the station, and I had a doctor's appointment. I remember stopping and looking up in the monitor, and I saw that Billy Graham had passed away. Billy Graham is a Charlotte native, and so this was wall-to-wall news in Charlotte yesterday on radio and TV. And interestingly enough, as fate would have it, my wonderful gift for my wife, I have a new GPS that she bought for me for Christmas that has real-time traffic. So as I was going down my normal route, I got an alert saying, hey, this is a 30-minute backup this particular way, and so alternate route. So I hit it, and it routes me around I-85, and I end up passing the Billy Graham Parkway exit. Well, what's significant about that, later on, when I got to the station, it dawned on me, we should do the show from out of the Billy Graham Library. It kind of coalesced in my mind. So here at 9:05, we just picked up, I got engineering, and they set up and said, hey, we'll meet you out there. So we did the broadcast out at the Billy Graham Library yesterday. The reason I tell that story, I've so much appreciated doing that on radio as opposed to TV. I would not have enjoyed doing wall-to-wall TV coverage. I did a 2-hour radio show. I was able to share the gospel. I was able to talk about, just engage with people, talk heart to heart. It wasn't a sterile news story. I was able to hear people call in and share, hey, Billy Graham, as a result of him, I came to Christ 20 years ago. And one lady shared her whole family came to Christ as a result of Billy Graham's ministry. This was and the text, it was extraordinary. The text that I got during the show, people were writing in saying, this is wonderful. And I can't help but to think, if Billy Graham were watching this, were listening to this program right now, he would be absolutely thrilled to see the Gospels going forward. So that, I hope, gives you a picture for why I enjoy what I do now, probably more than anything I've done before.